Welcome to the Barry Podcast, an unofficial show covering the hit HBO series Body. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie G. Esquire, the fifth. I'm here with my co-host, Magnum to talk about the 15th episode of Barry, titled The Audition.
I am Magnum Mills, and I have to admit, I've never seen one episode of Prison Teens. Thank you for checking out the Barry Podcast. Find us wherever you pods on all major podcast platforms and even most of the minor ones. You can find us on social media at Barry Podcast. Search for us on YouTube or go to joeblowfootballshow.com. That brings you right to our YouTube channel. If you could, please take about 6.5 seconds to comment, rate, like, follow, subscribe. You know the deal. If you could just do one of those things, it'll help someone else find the show, and we really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
During our episode discussion, we are going to be spoiling The Audition, as well as all previous episodes of Barry. Near the end of our episode, we're going to have a full-blown spoiler section where we'll discuss future episodes and events of Barry, including any recent news, trailers, you name it. It's all on the table. We'll let you know when we arrive at that point, though, so don't you worry. You'll have plenty of time to bounce out of here, head out if you'd like. Mills, it is time for the details of the episode, starting now.
This is season 2, episode 7 of Barry, titled The Audition. Originally aired Sunday, May 12, 2019, with an estimated 1.87 million viewers in the United States tuning in live, still enjoying that Game of Thrones lead-in. Directed by Alec Berg. This is the 4th episode of Barry that he has directed. Written by Liz Sarnoff. This is the 2nd episode of Barry that she has written. The short plot synopsis is: Barry prepares for his first audition under Gene's guidance. Sally takes a stand in a meeting with a major TV producer. NoHo Hank bears all. I don't know if NoHo Hank, I don't think he hangs dong here, but stay tuned to find out.
Yeah, but boy, with that hanging there, that's what grabs you right here. It's like, oh my God, he bears it all. Before we dive into our recap discussion of this episode, we should probably just give you our overall thoughts. For me, I think the ending, the last 5 minutes of this episode is really, really, really strong. I mean, great. Especially where they cut it to black to end this one. I just thought it was fantastic. There are some absolute hilarious parts of this. Just some one-liners in there that you kind of can miss if you're not really paying attention, but they're so good, and it's kind of just a real deep dive into the satire and the and kind of the sarcasm around life as an actor. And I also think there's really good character development here. We get more of kind of who Sally is, which is really good, particularly how she reacts to Barry getting this audition. Overall, really good episode, man. I feel like the season as a whole kind of took a turn for the better over the last couple of episodes. I really like where they're going to wrap to, with one episode left.
I think what's interesting here is when you look back on it, everything in this episode seems pretty obvious, except for maybe the final moment when Fuchs puts that gun up to Gene's head. But when you were watching it for the first time, it was not obvious at all. And it felt, oh my God, what's happening? Oh my God, what's happening? And I think that's a mark of a very well-written show, is that it seems surprising in the moment, but when you look back at it, it's like, oh, that totally makes sense. Like Sally's arc here, how Hank's army plot worked out. You see everything kind of come to the head, and it's an excellent penultimate episode because it's still a good episode on its own, a very good episode, I think, even, but it really sets you up in just a way that, especially with that cliffhanger right there, that's another one. If you're binging it, it's not so bad. But if you had to wait a week for that back in the day, ooh-wee.
All right, Mills, it's time to begin the audition.
The episode opens with Sally's meeting at Gersh with Lindsay and the Mikes. Lindsay told the Mikes about Sally's piece and they want to put her in a room with Aaron Ryan, a big TV producer. He's a fellow client who has a project they think would be perfect for Sally. The audition is for one of the leads, and Sally is very excited. Other Mike sees Barry in the waiting room. He tells Barry he heard good things about Barry's performance from Lindsay. He then asks Barry how tall he is. He leaves, and Sally almost immediately arrives to see Barry. She tells him about her audition, and she is so excited. Well, until she finds out that Barry also has an audition.
Yeah, it's hilarious here. And again, just great timing because, she's literally talking about, thank you for pushing me and being my partner and being so supportive. And then she just, as she realizes it, and dude, Sarah Gold, she's incredible actress. I just love how quickly she transitions from thank you, thank you, thank you to what? And then I love how they continue her. You could just tell this is bothering her as the episode unfolds. So great work there.
Absolutely. And I thought that was well done. The scene with Sally and everything, especially the idea of other Mike leaving and he's just got this ball and they never explain it. Later on in the episode, I believe he has a pillow. It's just kind of his thing and it's unexplained. But then he has that kind of meet cute with Barry almost. And I just love that whole thing. It reminded me of when Homer Simpson met the Smashing Pumpkins back in the day.
Billy Corgan, Smashing Pumpkins.
Homer Simpson, smiling politely.
Always something I enjoyed. And I have to ask Jamie G, what would you prefer to watch, Divorced Women or Prison Teens?
Prison Team seems like it get pretty heavy. I'm going Divorced Women. I think I like that speed a little bit more.
See, that's you want the spinoff. You want Divorced Detective starring our old buddy Detective Loach. That'd be a good one.
Yes.
And one thing here that does kind of jump out.
It's so crazy that I just like put my art out into the universe, and I'm already seeing the benefits I deserve.
And it's a little interesting that she feels that she's owed something by the universe, I guess.
No doubt.
And it is kind of neat that that's how you get an audition. I didn't know that.
It's kind of how it works, man. You just gotta love Hater Tier just playing it so nonchalant too. It's just, yeah, it's good stuff, dude.
It's neat. It's really what it is. It's just neat. After the title card, Sally and Barry are driving home. We learn that Barry has an audition for a movie with the director of the film, Jay Roach. They like him because he's tall. Sally questions the fact that he skipped like 5 rounds of callbacks because he's tall. I don't know, man. Is Sally just being salty here? Shouldn't, like, she just got her own thing? Does she really need to hate on Barry here?
Absolutely not. But this, I love that they're doing it though, because it's literally diving into more exactly of who Sally is, and it's just deep kind of character development here for her. But absolutely not. She should be super thrilled. Now, on one hand, I see her point because she has been so on the grind, and here Barry just walks in and like casually, nonchalantly like meets her agent's boss who gives him a card, and he just literally skips like 5 steps and gets she's never even had a director audition. So yeah, I can see why she's frustrated here because she's putting in the work and she also knows like, dude, I'm totally like way better than you. And I think she even says that later on this episode, but it's also kind of like not the best look, man. Like, come on, Sally, that's not some good cosmic energy, but that's Sally.
She really does seem like she honestly feels that the universe owes her for better or worse. I love that they set up the idea here that everyone else calls the movie a feature and Barry just keeps calling it a movie. That comes up a couple different times for the episode. I always love little runners like that. And to be honest, I really don't think that being tall helps with the poster. On screen, yes, but I'm pretty sure they've heard of Photoshop by now.
And come on, dude. I mean, they've made Tom Cruise look freaking 40 feet tall on a poster before. Like, I don't know that I'm buying that. Like, they can do shit with camera angles and stuff, but
lift technology has come a long way too. I got to get me some of those boots, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah,
magic boots.
Just no lifts, they'll ban you for life.
He saw the lifts in my shoes. He knows I'm heightening.
After that, Barry's in Gene's office explaining that he got an audition. Gene finds this hard to believe. Gene examines Barry's script pages. He's in 4 scenes, and his character even gets to say the title of the movie.
That's the title! They can't cut that!
I love how close Gene's reaction is to Sally's reaction.
What are they, reading extras now?
No, that's so weird. Sally said the same thing.
Oh man,
it's neat. It's just what happens. He's on the good path now, right? He thinks everything is just, this is how it works now. He's like done his good, and this is what the universe has given him, maybe. And I do have to ask, when we first get into the scene, Gene is doing some kind of, I don't know if it's clay or sculpture or whatever. Maybe he's making a voodoo doll. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see a picture of it. I just have no idea what the hell it was. And I'm just kind of interested because it's never talked about. Minor spoiler, but I don't think it ever comes back ever again. So just really curious as to what that was. After that, we finally get to check in with our buddy Hank, but things are not looking good. Hank and his men are moved from the shipping container they're in to a school bus as Cristobal and the accordion player look on. And pretty much here, so we can just talk about Hank's begging to Cristobal and Hank also yelling at the accordion guy again.
Oh, for fuck's sake, this fucking guy, can someone please shut him up?
Hank yelling at the accordion guy is just, I was a big fan of that from last episode. It still delivers. Love that they brought accordion guy back here.
Who do you think Hank hates more at this point, Esther or the accordion guy?
I think it might be the accordion guy, man.
I kind of think so, but maybe he do the thing, he puts them next to each other and tries to use the one bullet to get him.
Like a ricochet.
The old twofer, dude, the twofer. And the one funny little bit, like physical comedy at the beginning of the scene, you see the Chechen guys in the shipping container and they're zip tied to each other and they try to get up and they're like pulling each other. Just hysterical physical comedy, but realistically, if you had been, your legs are asleep and you're zip tied to some dude, it would be very difficult to stand up.
Yes, but I thought it was kind of cool how they shimmied together though. They made it. I'll tell you, NoHo Hank made it look easy, man.
He makes everything look easy except those shorts from Lululemon.
It's very true.
Next up, it's time for Sally's big meeting with Aaron Ryan. Things start out very well. They seem to be on the same page. He starts to pitch her on a show about 3 abused women. Okay, so far so good. And then things quickly go off the rails when he reveals that the premise of the show would be that they help other abused women get revenge by killing their abusers. Add that to the poster, and it's obvious that Aaron Ryan isn't interested in telling the kind of personal story that Sally wants to tell. Interesting build up here, right? They make it seem like it's going to be her dream project, and then the dude's just as bad as everybody else, if not worse.
You raised my hopes and dashed them quite expertly, sir. Bravo!
So cool how that opening, earlier in the scene, it's like, oh my God, the stars are finally aligning. And then you see this and it's like, and I don't know, man, do you think her reaction's right here or should she just do it?
I guess it depends, because the correct answer from a career standpoint is probably do it. But if it looks like this dude might be going down, anyone around him could go with him. And at this stage of her career, being on a big pilot that failed or something would also probably hurt her. So I think you probably have to, it's like an independent contractor, right? You have to make a choice whether or not you want to work on the Death Star. So I think it's a independent contractor on the Death Star situation here. The pay is good. It could work out, but there is definitely some downside there. And I mean, come on, man. It's that time of the month for revenge. When is the last time someone made that feels like an 80s? I feel like that died in the late 80s.
Yeah. It feels wrong here. That's what I was getting at. I don't know that Sally's necessarily wrong for not being excited about this. I guess I'll just put it that way.
And shout out Sally. When she sees the poster, she does a literal spit take with her water. And that was hysterical. And we alluded to it, but Sally did stick to her principles. She turned down the part. Lindsay and the Mikes are very unhappy with her decision, and she gets mad at them for not supporting her in what she wants to do, and she tells them that it might not be a good fit. Sally hurriedly leaves the office, and we're not sure if they're still her agents or not. Did she push too hard?
Listen, this is weird, and I think she was kind of feeling like attacked here, and she basically was just like, maybe this isn't a good fit. And I think it's almost kind of like she might have fired them, kind of. And I can understand, they went on a limb, got her the part. I get their stance here. I don't think they understand she's on this thing where she just wants to do the truth, and they're just trying to find her work.
You really don't have the credits to be turning this down.
Yeah, we've all seen your reel.
You cut together my reel.
Yeah.
I love that little bit. Just the little stuff in that is great. And you also have to point out, as I mentioned, the other Mike now is going from the big ball to the like a lumbar support pillow he's got. I just want to know the backstory of this, what's going on here. And it might even be a backstory because his back's fucked up.
Very well could.
Speaking of backs, back at the theater, Gene is trying to help Barry break down his character in the movie. He's playing this guy JT, and somebody stole JT's girlfriend, and he decides to get revenge by shitting in a pie and making the dude eat it. Unfortunately, JT winds up being the one to eat the shit pie. They have to work quickly because the audition is tomorrow at 10 a.m. Gene says that he'll be there at 9:45 to warm him up. Barry thinks that's weird, but Gene assures him that everybody brings a scene partner to their first audition. Jamie G, do they?
That was the first time I had heard that. I hadn't seen that before, but Gene Cousineau would know more than me. Maybe they did in the 70s when he was a thing. I don't know.
We see the audition room later, and I think a few people brought scene partners. So I don't think it's as insane as maybe Barry thought it was, but I don't think it's a regular thing like Gene thought it was either. I think he's just trying to get some coattails here. JT got a dad or something? I mean, dude, would you watch Swim Instructors?
You know what? I think I would. I think I would.
Just the breakdown of the script is so good. Like when Gene, again, we get the runner with the feature, the movie joke here. Love that. And then just seeing Henry Winkler just talking about, this cruel twist of irony. You eat the shit pie. Shit pie is a funny word. I don't know why they say it a few times here. And at the very end, when Gene realizes that his character says the title of the movie, and Gene's like,
Whose cock did you have to suck in a former life?
Everyone is just shocked by the fact that Barry got this part. So, the audition, I should say.
Yeah, and you have the little parallel here that Barry's character is doing a revenge thing. And in this episode, we see Fuchs doing a revenge thing. So nice little parallel there.
Yep.
In the next scene, Barry and Sally are rehearsing Barry's scenes, but it quickly becomes too much for Sally. She goes off on Barry about her fears of telling her story, and she tells him what happened to Gersh. She tells Barry that while she wants to help him, she's also insanely jealous of him. Shout out Sarah Goldberg, because you can't really do her monologue justice in recap form here. I mean, she goes off, I think someone said this is 7 pages or something like that, and it's in one take from what I can tell. So yeah, it's pretty much just diving deeper into what we were talking about before in the car, right? Like she knows she shouldn't be jealous of Barry, but she is. Where you pointed out, she also thinks it's obvious that she's better than him, or maybe more deserving and more talented.
I think we've all been there with someone who's kind of like having a moment and they just have to get it off their chest, but it's totally psychotic, and you just sit there and listen. Well, this was her doing that to an absolute perfection. I mean, it just at the end when she's like,
Continue.
I've had friends and stuff like, yeah, dude, that's a thing, man. That's a real thing.
And the best part about that is it seems for a second that Barry's going to take this all in and process it somehow. And he goes right back to, hey, Ike, you shitbird.
Want some pie?
And that's how that whole scene is just basically that line, I believe, like bookended it. Was that's Barry's line at the beginning, that's Barry's line at the end, and everything in between is Sally's monologue.
Great.
I mean, Barry did probably skip a couple of steps, but I mean, when you can say the word pie like that, I mean, I think that's pretty good. And also, I love how obviously bad this movie is. Although shitbird is funny, I'll give him credit. What's not funny is seeing Hank and his men driven into the middle of the desert on a bus. It does not look good. They park the bus, they douse it in gasoline, and it looks like this is it for the Chechens. While Hank starts into a long monologue about his failures and shortcomings, Marbek frees himself and the other Chechens. As Hank continues to drone on, Marbek and the rest of the men defeat the Burmese gang. Hank is still zip-tied on the bus as it's engulfed in flames. He cries for help to Marbek, and we cut to black. When we fade back in, we see that Hank was indeed saved, and when he sees that all the Burmese are defeated, he tries to walk back his monologue on the bus. It's okay, he was just trying to motivate them. It's too late. They're no longer his men. They file Marbek now. Even if Hank calls the Ubers for him when he gets a signal.
You gotta love how this goes down, and I'd like to see who saved Hank off the bus. I'm sad we didn't get to see that, but you gotta like how this one went down.
Again, it's basically a monologue. It's broken up with a little bit of action, but this is where we get a couple of classic Hank lines like, I'm optometrist by nature.
I know you look at me and you see hard as nails criminal, stone cold killer, Iceman, but this is lying.
There's so many good parts of this one, and the idea that he just wants to be the manager of a chain of hotels or something like that. I mean, that's literally the shirt I'm wearing. So
don't you think he could be really good running like if White Lotus did like a White Lotus and like the hotel manager was NoHo Hank? How amazing would that be, right?
You have to put him as just, shift manager in an Applebee's or something like that. Somewhere where you just like, it's going to get berated. He can just put his happy face on and just people would get so frustrated because they wouldn't be able to make him mad. But instead, he chose Pants on Fire Existence, and now they're all on the barbecue bus.
The barbecue bus, dude.
I think it just follows the bang bus around and just picks up all the people who are hungry afterwards.
If I ever get a food truck, I'm calling it the barbecue bus.
Marbeck is probably the one who saved him, and he's the guy we saw during the training. He was the most competent soldier. He's the one who thanked Barry for giving him a purpose and all that. So they have actually pointed out that he was pretty good. It was cool to see him escape, and it was also very funny that as Hank's giving his monologue, all the other men escape and get off the bus, and he doesn't even notice. And I guess Barry did a decent enough job because they actually managed to take out the Burmese guys. And very funny that Akmal gets shot in his opposite shoulder. Very good stuff there. Backstage at the acting class, Lindsay is apologizing to Sally. The Aaron Ryan thing was both lame and a bad fit. She just saw a chance for Sally to have a lead role, and her agent instincts kicked in. Moving forward, she's going to support Sally and her choices as an artist. In fact, she's been working to fill the audience with industry professionals. Lindsay leaves the involvement of the rest of the class up to Sally, and Sally decides that she wants them in the show. This earns a cheer from the class who are listening to everything behind a curtain. Lindsay brings the class to a bigger theater that she's gotten them for their performance. The only catch is that it has to be tomorrow night. Dude, how funny was it when during the thing you just hear everyone cheer from behind that black curtain?
Oh, dude, I was dying. That was one of the funny. Again, it's a little stuff with Barry, but that was one of the funniest moments of the episode for me.
And it makes sense too, because there's really not a lot of room in that theater, and they do a great job of that, of showing the different scope when they start going through the bigger theater, and everyone's just like, how many seats are this? And it's only 400 or 500. I mean, I say only, but to them, that might as well be, Yankee Stadium or something like that.
Oh yeah, dude, that's Madison Square Garden, bro. I mean, that's a huge venue.
What do you think? Is this a good enough, makeup apology from Lindsay here?
I think so for what it is. Yes.
Fair enough. The next day, Barry is in the waiting room for his audition when he gets a call from Gene, who was supposed to have met Barry there. Gene explains that he's with a private detective who's going to help him search for Janice. The detective's name is Henry Goulet, which Barry recognizes as one of Fuchs' aliases. Gene puts Fuchs on the phone, and when Gene is out of earshot, Fuchs gloats to Barry that he most definitely has some moves left. Barry begs him not to hurt Mr. Cousineau. He'll do whatever Fuchs wants. Fuchs hangs up, and Barry gets called into his audition. Barry is thrown off by Fuchs' call, and he only does one scene before walking out. The director is actually intrigued by the way Barry underplayed it. He did not give a fuck. And they like that he's tall.
The fact that he's tall here and 6'2", first thing they ask him, hilarious. But in all seriousness, you feel bad for Barry here. He finally is getting his break, and he can't do it because he's immediately sucked back in to his old life. You know what I mean? So that's where it's like, highly frustrating. You feel bad for him because you want him to kind of have this be his part, right? And it's not going to happen.
Previously, getting bad news had worked in his favor. He was able to use it, or it prompted the right emotion. Here, this is obviously an over-the-top comedy, but to Jay Roach's credit, he was very intrigued with just the way, he didn't do any of the jokes, like just the wow, he did not give a fuck. It was just great. And this is probably the scariest I think we've seen Fuchs so far in the entire series.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, you can tell that Fuchs had even a sinister kind of in him during his voice was like, shut up, where he like had this like kind of evil with him, where you could tell like his revenge and his want to get even with Barry is so intense right now. That's all that matters, man. Like he wants him to know he's not out of moves, and he's not.
Yeah, he had an actual edge to him here. Whereas before he's almost probably more similar to NoHo Hank than anybody else. He just has a little bit of different attitude, but they seem to have about the same level of competency. They can both do some things, but they're not that great on their own. They need solid supporting people to help them. And we do see the audition here. Again, a couple scene partners, but a lot of pies. Do you think there were any method actors in the house that made actual shit pie?
God, I hope not.
I bet you there was one, dude. He wanted to show the director the commitment. After the scene, he's like, yeah, that was real, just so you know. And then you don't get the part because you just shoved a shit pie in the director's face. It's method acting, dude. It's a gift and a curse.
Yes, it is. There's so much to unpack there. I'm not going to unpack it. I'm leaving it in the suitcase.
Not all pie is good pie.
Not all pie is good pie.
Also could have been the title of the episode. After that, we see Barry run to his car, and then we cut to Fuchs and Gene at Gene's cabin. They have a conversation where Gene tells Fuchs about how he helped Barry and how Barry has a big audition today. They leave to check out the woods while Barry speeds towards them in his car. We see Gene and Fuchs walking through the woods while Barry seems to be getting closer. Before he can arrive, Fuchs and Gene find Janice's car. Fuchs takes Gene's phone and tells him that he's going to call the cops. Barry is somewhere in the woods when he finally stops the car, and he gets out and starts running. Fuchs does call the cops, but he pretends to be Gene, and he confesses to the murder of Janice and implies that he might commit suicide. Fuchs hangs up, and we see Barry still racing through the woods on foot. Fuchs and Gene approach the car and open the trunk. After the trunk's open, as Gene stares at Janice's corpse, we see Fuchs cock a gun and point it at Gene's head, and we cut to black as the end credits roll. I'll have a cut to black there, right?
Hell of a cut to black. I mean, I mentioned it in my opening remarks here, overall thoughts on this episode. I thought the last couple of minutes of this episode were as good as it gets in terms of suspense and kind of the craziness of this story, because there's so many crazy moving parts with this story. And we kind of got most of this episode where we're just focusing on the fun stuff, the acting, the Barry and Sally both kind of getting chances to do what they want to do, right? But just when you think you're out, oh, baby, do they pull you back in, because this was a wild ending here.
Yeah, and just a couple of logistic things here. Didn't it seem that must have been pretty goddamn close to the cabin for Fuchs to have just walked Gene out there?
That was my first thing. It's like they weren't even in the woods that long. It made it seem like it was so easy to find. I mean, dude, I'm sorry. They had to at least do a 5-10 mile sweep. I cannot believe that they didn't find that. It's just that's one thing here that bummed me out, was like, man, they made it seem way too easy. At least last time Fuchs stumbled on it, he had camping gear, he camped out overnight. Like, this made it seem like it was right down the corner. I just that kind of bummed me out a little bit.
Yeah, think about how fast the cops get to him.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been that far. So, and the other thing here is, do you think this was Fuchs's plan the entire time, that he is going to frame Gene, kill him, make it look like a suicide? Or did he get a little bit extra pissed when they were talking in the cabin and Gene kind of claimed credit for taking Barry under his wing and helping him and all of this? If you watch Stephen Root during that, he just gets kind of, the face acting thing, just getting the angry eyes and everything. So I think maybe he was just trying to fuck with Gene, maybe just frame him before. And I think this might have pushed him over the edge where he's like, oh, well, I might kill him now.
Yeah.
Because that hurt him on a personal level, that, and we've already seen that Fuchs was jealous that Gene accepted Barry when Barry told him about stuff and everything like that.
Oh, dude, when he's telling him he was useless, he was like a floating bag blowing in the wind, no direction. Well, that was, yeah, you could see the anger. That's when I first realized Fuchs might actually kill this guy here. At first, you're kind of trying to think, what was his play? That's when I was like, I think Fuchs is going to kill Kusino.
I definitely had the fear. They don't do it here. We don't know what happens in the next episode, but this is the first time, again, Fuchs feels way more dangerous than he normally does. I mean, let's be honest here. 9 out of 10 times a new name means shady character, said by somebody calling himself Kenneth Boulay. You're not wrong, Fuchs. You're just an asshole.
Very true. And that's a wrap for our discussion of this episode. Before we hand out awards, we have to see what the other people thought about this one. Over on IMDb, our friends had this episode of Barry titled The Audition. They had it with a rating of 9.0. That actually makes it the 7th highest rated episode of Barry, landing squarely in rare air territory. We're talking about top third of the 24 total episodes from the first 3 seasons of Barry. Mills, what are your thoughts on this, man? Is this episode of Barry in the top third overall? And please, 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 no spoilers.
Well, I mean, we never get to see what happens with the thing Gene was making, but that's for another day. Actually, I think
Was he painting that, or was he sculpting it? Sorry, the inquiring minds want to know.
paint might have been in play. I'm legitimately have no idea what he was doing. I think top third's actually about perfect for this one. I think it's better than top half. I don't think it's in that quite top 10% or top, 5 episodes. I mean, really, so 7 feels about perfect. I'd say, between, give it the old Bill and Ted, between 6 and 9. So 7 is right in that range. I think that's right on the nose. Jamie G, is this a Rudolph for you?
Yeah, I think it's pretty dang accurate, man. I mean, I think yeah, not much more I can say there. I think it's a good spot for it. It's basically where it needs to be.
And we agree. We like that. And what not everybody agrees on are the episode titles for Barry. Sometimes they're pretty good. Sometimes they're not so good. Bill Hader himself has even admitted they don't spend a ton of time on these. The Audition is spot on. It's definitely pretty good. It feels like the title of a Seinfeld episode. So maybe can we bury it up a little bit? What do you think, Jamie G? Can you do any better than the Audition?
Shitbirds and shit pies would have been a hilarious one for me. I know it's probably not one they would do. I don't think they've cursed in the title. But shitbird and shit pie would have been incredible. That just would have been all-time best. That might have been their best one that they ever named if they did it.
Yeah, you can't really go wrong with Shitbird, but if I was going to go on a serious level that they might have used, there's I Made You or Something Real. Those both feel like they might have worked. But if you were going to have fun, it's kind of neat. You're really loud and one-time do-over.
Yeah, I love that. Dude, what about How Tall Are You? That would have been interesting as well, too. How tall are you?
So you're 6'2".
Now it's time to hand out some awards for this here episode. And we'll start by each choosing our favorite quote or dialogue exchange from the episode. Man, look, dude, there's a couple different ways you can go with this. You can go like super serious, or you can go super funny. I've got to go with Gene.
Holy moly, JT is on every page. That's a lot of lines, Barry.
Yeah, I think he's one of the leads.
No! You say, oh, we're just a bunch of swim instructors. That's the title. They can't cut that.
I choose to go funny, and that whole part there, the whole dialogue exchange was just the best of Gene, man. It really is.
I like your efficiency there because that could have been my favorite dialogue. It could have been my favorite scene. You folded those both into one, open up other options for me. So I'm going to go simple, and I brought it up a couple times with the knee, but just that exchange between Barry and Sally at the beginning of the episode after Barry gets his audition, he tells Sally,
Yeah, no, he was super nice. Yeah, he just got me an audition.
What?
Yeah, I didn't realize that's how it worked. It's kind of neat.
and then bam, cut the title card. That is one of the best cut the title cards in the history of the show. So I enjoy that very much. Next up is our favorite scene or moment from the audition. My turn to go first. I'm going to go with Hank's monologue because I hope you're going to do the right thing and take the other one. But it's a two-parter. It's great. Part of it is with the bus on fire. I enjoy so much of it. It both is absolutely true to Hank's character and absolutely hysterical. Jamie G, favorite scene or moment from the audition?
That was a lot of pressure you put on me. I'm probably not going to do what you think I'm going to do. I'm not going to do what everyone thinks I'm going to do. Freak out, man. What I'm going to do here, though, is, dude, I mentioned it in my opening remarks. We talked about it a little bit throughout. I've got to stay true blue to the color in my heart. And that's I hate to take the first or the final, scenes, but I got to go with that last scene from the time, Barry is driving in his car, chasing down, and then the cut to black. To me, that was just really, really, really good, man. I love that suspense of this. It got real fast. I got to give it there.
There's nothing wrong with that pick, but honorable mention to Sally's monologue.
Yes, honorable mention to Sally's monologue. That was absolutely incredible and a phenomenal piece of acting. That does bring us to our Greek freak of assassins, which is the MVP of the episode. And I guess it's my turn to go first here. Man, this was a tough one. But, dude, he's only in it for a hot minute. But I'm giving it to Fuchsy, dude. I'm giving it to Fuchsy. Fuchsy's only in this episode for a bit, but he has total control and is making a massive, and I mean massive, power move on Barry. Shout out Fuchs.
I give Fuchs credit. He always makes moves. Good moves, bad moves. He's moving. Unless he's, drinking the Blantons in the chair. Then he's not moving. But other than that, he's making moves. Fuchs is my runner-up. Dude, I got to go with Murbeck. Our boy from the Chechens, the best soldier, gets himself free, saves his entire army. They take out the Burmese, and now he's the leader. How is that not? That's the MVP, dude.
Yeah.
And he probably the highest body count, most respect. He gets very much here.
Yeah, I mean, he went from being marginal at best to like legitimately being more of a leader and like an intense guy than, any shit, dude. Even our boy from season 1.
He went from like featured extra to like guest star or also starring or something.
He was serious, man. He was like a legitimate like lieutenant out there. So you gotta give it up for him.
Big come up there. Big come up. And we're still trying to do the Bone Thugs thing and be creeping on the come up, but we're not Roddy T's, we're not Rotten Tomatoes, but we still got to give a grade to the audition. And in honor of Henry Winkler, that's Gene Cousineau himself.
Because I'm the Fonz, huh? Hey.
We grade each episode of Barry on a scale of 1 to 10 Fonzies. Hey, I'm up first here. I believe I had the last episode at 9.2. I'm going up a pinch. I'm going 9.3. Hey, Fonzies. Jamie G, hit the jukebox. Do anything except jump over the shark.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to put another dime in that jukebox, baby. I need to be there with you. The reason why I can't go 9.3 is it's hard for me to get over I wish they wouldn't have yada, yada, yada Fuchs getting, Gene to the car. It just kind of, man, it's such a pivotal thing that I just don't want that to be done. So I'm just right up against, I'm creeping on the come up at 9.2.
Fair enough. And I did look at it enough to try to determine if maybe Fuchs had moved the car closer. There's a chance that he did, but it really looks to be the same thing. But in my head, that's how I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. That's my workaround, is that Fuchs took the time to move it closer, so that way he could make sure Gene found it. He probably wasn't going to get Gene to camp overnight if it took that long to get there. So that's the explanation I've created for myself.
Well, it works. But
is there a real explanation? Did I just make that up? I don't know, but you will soon, because we're now about to enter the spoiler section. So if you do not want to be spoiled on anything from future episodes of Barry, news about the show, trailers, anything like that, go ahead, check out now. Thank you for tuning in, listening, or watching. Please remember to do the like, comment, rate, follow, subscribe thing. Check back for our next episode covering Berkman Greater Than Block, the 8th episode of season 2, and that's the season finale. For everybody else, this is our spoiler discussion, the spoiler section for The Audition. This is not the end of swim instructors, and in fact, I think we see Allison Jones, who, if I remember, is an actual Hollywood casting director that they just had actually do the part here, if I remember right, and she comes back around, and I think Josh Gad actually winds up playing the part that Barry was supposed to play, and that's a runner that we get a couple of times, and I think that leads into Barry getting the audition for Laws of Humanity in season 3. So I think there's a lot of connective tissue there that comes back around. So that's pretty cool. And
one interesting one for me was we kind of got our first little snippet of Barry kind of having success, kind of getting work as an actor. We see a lot of that in season 3. So it was kind of interesting here to see him kind of like just nonchalantly get it. It seems to work for him. And it was kind of our first little shot of him actually, I don't know, being an actor.
It's funny because I didn't quite remember the end of this episode exactly. I knew Fuchs took Gene to the body, but I didn't remember Fuchs calling the cops like that for some reason.
I didn't either, dude.
I didn't remember exactly that's how it went down.
I didn't remember him trying to frame Gene and then having like Gene commit suicide type thing. on this. Like I didn't remember that at all. I remember him taking him there and telling him Barry did it, but I didn't remember that.
Yes, I remember that part. Yeah, Barry Berkman did this, but they tease that, here you see him whisper, but you don't know what he whispers. And even Gene doesn't remember until the end of episode 8, at the end of the next episode. Originally, for some reason, I just remembered it that I thought he turned Gene's phone on and like called the cops and just left it on, and that's how they followed it or something. In my head, that's how I remembered it. I don't know why.
Well, that's a wrap on the audition. Mills, anything else we want to add here?
No, I think that's it. Next up is season 2, episode 8, the season 2 finale, titled Berkman Greater Than Block. And it's like the greater than symbol. It's, I don't know, man. They've really leaned into the mathematics with their season 2 titles.
Well, good thing that's your department, my man. Thanks again for checking out the Barry podcast. We hope that that you enjoyed our show and that we've added something to your Barry experience. Whether you're rewatching like us or you're checking out Barry for the very first time, we're glad to be here for you. Go ahead, like, subscribe, comment. Just go ahead and do it. We're going to ask you until you do it, and then we're going to say thanks. And now we're buddies. So that's cool. That's what you get. Mills, did I forget anything here?
You have to tell them we're hard as nails podcast, Barry show and whatnot. We're cool as vanilla ice. All that good stuff that know
get out of free jail, man.
Like TLC, we are crazy, sexy. We are crazy, cool, sexy. Again, thank you, Barry Podcast, wherever you get your pod. Search for us on YouTube. Find us on social media at Barry Podcast. If you go to JoeBlowFootballShow.com, brings you right to our YouTube channel. Thank you one more time for checking us out. I am Magnum Mills. He is Jamie G. And we are the co-presidents of the Mitch Fan Club. And we like to go out by bringing it in. 1, 2, 3. Cusino!